Hello and welcome to the Magic Mirror Podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Khan, the Trinket Mage, and with me is my co-host, 3 Elk.
Hello.
Additionally, we have our other co-host, Salubrious Snail.
Hello, hello.
And this week, special guest, Dana.
Hello, hello.
Real quick, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell the audience who you are.
Absolutely. I am Dana Roach from the EDH Recast. I used to do a show called Commander Central too, and I write articles for EDH Rec. I am kind of a busy person in the Commander sphere.
Awesome. And we got a great episode here. We're going to be all talking about our biases when we build decks and how that might affect the lists that we create. And then we'll probably round out with a couple of questions. I have a few picked out from the audience here that I think will be fun to discuss, so we'll get to that at the end. But first, real quick, gotta thank our sponsor, Card Castle, the easy way to sort your collection digitally. If you want to start scanning and sorting your cards today, click our link in the description below to sign up for free, and you get 1 free month of premium access. Thanks to Card Castle for sponsoring the podcast.
Do we want to start by just talking about why this question is relevant?
Sure. Why do you think this question is relevant?
I know I think a lot about who my audience is and kind of how I'm serving them and sort of what the limitations on any advice I give are. Because I know I have certain types of things that I just do not like putting in decks as much. And I can tell people why that is, but I think for some of them, it is less about how good the thing itself is and more about my personal style. So I know I find this question very interesting in terms of, how is this something I can navigate around?
That's odd because I feel like I do the opposite. I am intentionally showing my biases and talking about the way I play and I build because I feel like it's very different than other people and it offers a unique perspective.
Yeah, you had me come on during the Aristocrats, how to build every archetype series sort of that you do.
Yeah.
Because you were just like, I don't know much about Aristocrats deck building, nor do I like doing it that much. So here's 3 Elk to talk about why sacking your stuff is fun.
It's definitely something I've ran into, particularly when like a friend or someone asks me for advice on a deck of theirs. Oh, what can I change this? It's kind of it's too slow, it's too clunky, whatever. And I can look at the list and I can offer a dozen suggestions. But that doesn't necessarily make their deck better for them. It just makes it better for me. And those aren't the same things. And it's really easy. Because I've made that mistake before when offering suggestions. It's like, oh, do this, and this. And then the person like, yeah, it's just not quite working for me. And I'm like, well, it's not working for you. I have to remember that those are different things. It would maybe work for me because of the way I play or what I enjoy doing in a game, but it doesn't always work for somebody else. That's an easy thing for me to like forget about sometimes.
For sure.
Yeah, I feel like too in our space, for me especially, I like some sort of narcissist. I'll plug my name into Google and look up and see if anyone's talking about my channel or anything. And I'll find some things here and there, and most of the time it's positive. But every so often there's criticism. And one criticism that actually stood out to me recently that kind of like is woven into this topic is there's like repetition sometimes. And I feel like each one of us has felt like we've repeated a point before in a video or we've repeated it in another one. And for me, that was something that came up in my mind, and seeing it laid out as criticism was like really interesting. Cause for me, I'm 100% repeating myself because I am like kind of leaning on my biases a lot when I'm making these videos. Cause most of our videos are opinion driven. Like we're just doing op-ed stuff. So,
Yeah, 100%. And I think giving my opinion on somebody else's deck is generally the context in which my biases are most clear to me. When I'm making my own videos, I'm kind of, doing what I want, building, I build my own deck building style. I tell people about that style. I think there is value just in that, in kind of telling people about my unique style, sort of as Khan said. But yeah, I've definitely encountered sort of feedback of I place too much emphasis on this. I know a couple times I've seen, people say I talk about this deck too much. Usually not that. More often I've seen, I talk about my budget deck pool too much. That was a criticism, I think, sometime late last year. I guess I was yammering on about that a lot. And I found that interesting because it makes it clear that that's just not a helpful thing to talk about for a certain section of people. That's just, me talking about that a lot is making the content of my channel less useful to some people because it is a very different kind of style of deck building than some, and the lessons from it are different and maybe less widely applicable than I think.
Yeah, you can definitely go the other direction with it, which is something I've done too. Like, not only do you maybe offer advice that's applicable to you and maybe doesn't apply to somebody else, but like one other thing I've found is ignoring things I don't like maybe when I shouldn't. So there's a gazillion Boros equipment commanders out there, and I don't pay attention to any of them because I have no interest in playing Boros equipment. I have an Azorius equipment deck. And like, if I'm going to do something that's an established archetype, I will usually look for a way to not do it the way I'm being told to do it, which is fine. But it also means then I have no idea what Boros equipment commanders are any good because I don't care. And that's maybe not healthy either for me to have ignored that entire space because it doesn't interest me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll also frequently like kind of sort of brush people off. I think it's usually particularly when they make specific suggestions toward my decks. Like I've gotten this with my Rata deck the most. I'll get people who say, why don't you switch to a different commander like Ruby, or why don't you add a third color? And I'll be like, well, because I don't want to. And I don't really have a justification beyond that. Like I like this deck. I don't feel the need. And that's interesting. And
it's a great reason though. It's just tough to kind of quantify sometimes.
Yeah. And it's a little bit weird to give as like a response to somebody because, you know, it's nice to be able to give like kind of a thoughtful reason for something. I can give a thoughtful reason for why I haven't done a lot of things with my decks, but for some of them, it's just, I don't want to. I like my deck the way it is.
Man, that's how I feel about Mina and Den. I need to do something with that deck. It's like not playable.
Every so often, I will get an insanely good recommendation for one of my decks. But most of the time, I am in that sort of brush off mode where it's like, yeah, but like, I don't really like that card, or the ceiling isn't there for me compared to the floor of that card. One recommendation that was recently added to a deck because someone recommended it was I have a Judith the Scourge Diva deck that pings when things die. And the card Aether Revolt, it has Revolt, and if a thing left the battlefield, it does your pings will deal +2 damage, right? It's like a little bit of a Torbrand effect on non-combat damage. But it has a second clause that says whenever you get one or more energy, this enchantment deals that much damage to any target. My deck runs Chthonian Nightmare as one of the main engines, so if you can like loop Chthonian Nightmare in any major amount, you just start like dealing 5 repeatedly to things because you get 3 energy every time. And at first I was like, I don't know, I don't really like damage amplifiers with Judith. It feels kind of like win more, right? And then they're like, no, Chthonian Nightmare. I was like, okay, hang on, wait, I'm on board. So I don't know, like with a little bit of pushing, you know, my biases got like completely blown away because that was such a cool interaction that I just didn't even think about the first time around.
To be clear, I broadly love it when people are interested in my decks and want to give feedback on my decks.
Yeah.
It's more when like there's like one specific item of feedback that I see like a dozen times that it starts to be something that I kind of just ignore.
Well, I think it's also gotten easier to miss stuff like that with the rate with which sets are coming out at this point.
Yes, 100%.
Like once upon a time, 10 years ago, you could know every card that came out because there was 4 or 5 sets a year. And maybe you didn't run a deck and a card for your deck. You're like, maybe I'll try that later on. But like you would remember it because we haven't had a set in 4 months. So like you remembered the stuff that came out 4 months ago, even if you didn't run it when you built a new deck or something. Today, that's another thing I found that I have a problem with sometimes. Is like go to brew a new deck and I'm like, okay, I know all of these cards, but like there's going to be stuff that came out in the last year that I've forgotten even came out because we had 9 sets in 12 months.
That reminds me, Edge of Eternity spoilers is happening now, right?
Yeah.
Like
there's been a ton of cards spoiled already. Yeah.
We should probably talk about some of those at some point in this episode. We'll do it a little bit later.
If anything, it gives us some time to like actually like get into the actual meat of this question. And it's like, what biases do we have?
I think for me, a lot of it is like how I started playing Commander has definitely shaped my view of the format. Because I got into Magic in like high school and I was playing Modern, it was my favorite format. And I played some Commander with my friends. But then during like my undergrad, me and 3 friends really grinded out Commander. Like we played so much of it. Because, we're in college and it was during COVID for some of those years too. So like we were really just locked in together playing Commander. And we used our printing budgets at the school to just proxy everything. So we did kind of the opposite of Snail's $25 deck pool. It was an infinite budget deck pool where we just every day had a different deck with no limitations on what it could be. And we played all sorts of everything from actual like traditional CDH to high power to more casual to every archetype, because like, you know, you had access to every card. And I don't know, that kind of shaped my like need for like optimization in the mana base. And like, I love tuning a really jank deck, you know, playing powerful support cards for goofy strategies and like essentially trying to power up a really bad idea for a deck. I feel like that shows in my decks. I don't know.
I very much feel the same way. I feel like on a deck that has like some kind of limitations baked in, so whether it's a weaker commander or you're playing with some kind of rules that you've brewed in the deck, I'm not going to run any of this or that, whatever it winds up being, then I feel like you can really tighten the screws a lot more on that deck and like really tune the efficiency and like mercilessly tweak it. But because you've built in those speed bumps, you can do it without like flooding into that bracket 4 or CDH territory. So I definitely feel the same way. I tend to do that. I'll build some like really strict set of restrictions in this deck, you know, no instants or sorceries or something in a list. When I do that, then it lets me not feel bad about like just taking it as hard as I can in terms of like what I am tweaking and what I am changing in it, because it's got some things built in to keep it from going too hard.
For me, I find my most major bias is mostly comes out. You guys heard it a little bit there earlier. Is I hate low floor, high ceiling, and it comes out a lot in my fervent hatred of like Phyrexian Arena as a card and stuff like that, where it's like I do not want a dead top deck in my list. I will always build lists with a very high floor, and I will sacrifice a lot of ceiling to make that happen. And this also trickles into like my viewer deck reviews, right? Where like people will send in a list. I'm like, well, here's how you can make your list more consistent at doing the thing it wants to do. But I never really touch on like, how can you power spike this list? And it's also why I run so many tutors in my lists as well, because I really just like being able to touch my entire deck whenever I want to. And it's a lot. It feels very weird to have a list. I do have a couple without tutors, but it feels really strange to just be like relying on the luck of the draw more. Like Cormella is a good example of this. Like my consistency in Cormella comes from having a varied amount of giant haymaker spells at the top end, but I don't like necessarily tutor for any one of them. So it's a lot more luck of the draw, but Cormella is still consistent in the way that like I have a rock in the command zone, basically a mana dork.
I find it interesting that you consider that a bias. I definitely have some of that as well. And there have been times here or there where I've gone, okay, maybe I can be a little bit more lenient on kind of amplifier cards that need other things to set up. But broadly, and I think, to be clear, I think I am a little bit less in this camp than you. I am fine with Phyrexian Arena. I'm fine with things that might need to sit around just a little bit if the expected reward on them is pretty high. But broadly, I just consider that pretty good deck building advice, particularly if I'm giving advice to less experienced players who I'm trying to have the most fun. I think the way to have the most fun if you're getting into the format, the way to play the format, if you want to actually, enjoy it enough to have more commander games, is to not have decks that are going to randomly brick on you, whether that be randomly brick on you just because of the luck of the draw or because you face some interaction. So I really have, I'll consider my biases sometimes on sort of amplifier cards, but in general, I think with the kind of encouraging high floor decks, I just consider that good deck building advice. I don't really have shame about that broadly.
I tend to agree that's good deck building, but it can, I think, sometimes impact me being open-minded, I guess is the way I would phrase it. We used to do a thing years ago where like we would like pick our favorite card of the year. And there was like a run where, 3 years in a row, my favorite cards were like Notion, Rain, Winged Words, and Chart a Course. Like there's nothing I love more than spending 2 mana to draw 2 cards, right? Like that's my favorite thing in the world.
What was a Notion Rain? I've never seen.
Notion Rain is Surveil 2, Draw 2.
Yeah, right.
It deals 2 damage to you.
Yeah.
That's a solid Dimir draw card budget. It's Read the Bones. It's just Read the Bones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sorry, this card has a very specific piece of lore that I need to shout out. It deals 2 damage to you. You don't lose 2 life, because this is during the time where they were trying to like make life loss not a thing anymore. So it's in the same camp as like Midnight Reaper, where like Midnight Reaper does damage to you instead of making you lose your life.
But I love that kind of effect. I love the efficiency of it because, you can use that early in the game to find that land or whatever. And if you draw that on turn 10, well, you don't care. Spending 2 mana to draw 2 cards feels pretty decent too. versus something like any of Blue's X draw spells. I detest, because if you draw them early, they're like, you don't have the mana to get anything worthwhile out of them. And if you're drawing them on turn 10 or something, well, I could draw 8 cards, but like that's going to use up all my mana for the turn. I'm vulnerable to whatever else is going to be happening. There's just no point in the game where I ever feel like I want to cast any kind of a blue X draw spell. But just because I don't want to do that and like it never works in the way I play or the way I brew, doesn't necessarily mean those aren't useful spells in someone else's deck or in someone else's play style. I don't know what those circumstances would be, but like I feel like I have to be cautious.
I love blue extra spells. I love those.
I do too if they're instant.
Yes.
They have to be instant.
Yeah, if it's a sorcery one, that one sucks.
Pull from Tomorrow, I love.
Yeah, Pull from Tomorrow is a very good one. But like, I agree with you entirely here, Dana. The main reason I'm bringing this up is like it really inhibits my ability sometimes to assess cards in a deck list or in general. Just to be like, oh, Phyrexian Arena is such a knee-jerk, like, oh, this card sucks. But like when paired with certain cards like Solitary Confinement per se, or like some other synergies like that, it's actually pretty interesting. Oh, back the other one, not the Commander Legends ones, a Splitter of Seconds, like getting extra upkeeps. That's hilarious with Phyrexian Arena, right? But to me, I'm like, oh, I don't want to draw Phyrexian Arena. It does nothing the turn I play it. And this is like also coming from a limited mindset also partially. I'm just like, I don't want to spend 3 mana not to impact the board.
I think it also might be a case of what tables you're playing at, because you might be at a table where Phyrexian Arena literally never gets destroyed aside from maybe a random board wipe 5 turns later. But like nobody's spending their removal to kill your Phyrexian Arena. There might be tables like that.
I had this conversation recently with somebody that Phyrexian Arena actually has maybe gotten better in recent years because no one can bother to remove it because there's so many more scary things out there compared to, 7-8 years ago. Like, I'm not sure that justifies running it necessarily, but I do think there's like this weird sweet spot where cards that not many years ago were like absolutely removal magnets no longer can be because you just can't afford to waste the mana and a card on it.
I think you're spot on, honestly, because part of my bias, my love for blue draw spells, these big X spells, is they're not stop die removal. And in my original like real play group, everybody's playing the best removal in the format, period, right? Everybody's proxying everything. So there's no reason not to run all of the best free interaction, the strongest things. So a Phyrexian Arena is probably going to get swept up in a Cycrypt. Everyone's got a Cycrypt. Everyone's got Farewell, right? Whereas something that's not on the board, it's only counter spells that stop that. And not every deck was running blue, so it wouldn't get hit by the Farewell or whatever. But now that I'm like more in the wild playing with like randos, I don't see the optimal cards, the optimal support pieces as often. And I feel like Phyrexian Arena, I went back to playing Mind's Eye as a card, and it lasts like a long time. I get a ton of value from it.
Yeah, Mind's Eye is fine if you're playing a instant speed deck, which I mean you're you, so I imagine you are.
Yeah. Again, my bias is talking, but
for sure. I think my bias generally is, I obviously have several, but one I've noticed recently is that I feel an aversion to political cards, and I frequently just miss political use cases. And I think I had a moment on the podcast like a month ago where this kind of really solidified for me. You were talking about Bladegrift Prototype, and I was like, well, that card kind of blows.
Yeah.
I don't like that card. And you missed the political usage of it. And I had literally never in my life considered that you could talk your opponent into killing a specific thing with this card. I was just like, oh yeah, it's just gonna kill like a thing. I don't know. This seems okay. I think I just missed that. And I'm not even like a quiet power gamer or anything. Like I tend to yap a lot in games, but I don't generally go for kind of a deal maker play style typically. I don't tend to think about, or at least I don't tend to think about that. Sometimes certain situations, but that's just an area where I don't fully consider certain cards.
Yeah, I come from a very similar game sort of con where it's like incredibly high power, like everyone's like, at the time they weren't game changers, right? But they're, game changers as we know them today, full decks full of them. So I'm seeing cyclonic rifts and like all sorts of things everywhere. So all my protection packages all phase out. They never are indestructible because that's a worthless word, things like this. But for me, everyone at home, take a shot. Farrakha was the deck that made me realize that I really liked political play because I had Farrakha in a Griswold Voltron deck And I realized I only liked the games where I drew Farrakha. And I was like, I'm going to build Farrakha as this, like, giving someone death touch blockers. And it's really cool to do that politically because someone swinging, it stops like any sort of aggro deck that has attack triggers, right? So there's a line of card for me in terms of politics cards where I'm like, I don't want to touch it. Tenuous Truce, Wedding Ring, these are cards that I'm not really interested in. But like there's ones like Farrakha and also ones like Blade Brick Prototype where it turns into the enemy of my enemy is a friend situation where you can like team up with a member to bring someone down a peg, which is really funny.
Yeah, I definitely am not someone who likes political cards. I think for a couple reasons, and I guess this will be a bias as well. They don't work on me. Like you're not convincing me not to do a thing by giving me stuff. I'm still going to kill you. I mean, I'll take the free things or whatever it is you're providing with me, but like it's not going to change my mind from like making the decision I was going to make. And the other thing, going the other direction, I don't like to play them because I don't like dealing with the variable of assuming my opponents are going to have to make good decisions. That the unknown bothers me in terms of like, okay, if I set up this situation, I'm relying on you to take advantage of it in the appropriate way or, make the right decision somehow, whatever that winds up being, depending on the card. I absolutely do not like having to rely on that unknown. I just want my card to do the thing based on my decision, not reliant on someone else's.
I respect that.
Yeah. I'm reminded of an early video on Elk's channel that I talked to them about. And it was the one about, Commander sucks. Which is, I don't remember what the exact thesis was. But
I think the title was Commander Sucks, but that's why I love it. Or like, yeah, that's why that's okay.
It's just game. Why are you so mad? But yeah. Specifically, the point in that really registered with me was the idea of considering your opponents as another source of variance. I am very much somebody who tries to avoid kind of unnecessary variance in my deck building. I don't know if that comes from having a statistics degree or just having a kind of conservative playstyle in general, but other people are kind of a form of variance. Like you don't know how somebody is going to respond to a card you have. You just don't know. And it's interesting to kind of consider that as a bias and to consider whether that's tied in fundamentally to a broader aversion to kind of high variance, low floor, high ceiling deck building.
I'm kind of in my political card arc right now, so I think currently that variance is a fun, exciting part of EDH for me right now. But maybe we'll be on a podcast in a couple months and my opinion will have changed.
Yeah, there's sort of a spectrum of political cards I do want to point out, by the way. There's the ones that I love, like I mentioned already, Farrakha and the
Prisoner's Dilemma.
Prisoner's Dilemma.
Coolest card.
Prisoner's Dilemma is not a political card, I don't think. It's just a burn spell. So those sorts of cards are on the I like this political card side. And then more towards the middle is like a Secret Rendezvous kind of effect. And then the ones that I despise are Tempting Offer.
Yes.
Do not like those at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the one exception for me is I'm a big fan of Council's Judgment. But
that card's cool.
But I think the thing there is I'm going to get my thing. Yeah, it's sorcery, but I'm like, I'm going to be able to exile the one thing I want exiled. And I get around hexproof, whatever. Like it's 3 mana for sorcery isn't ideal, but I will get the thing I want gone 99% of the time. And there's an okay chance everyone else will, make the correct choice and deal with the second biggest problem or something. So like it's reliable enough that I don't worry about the political aspect of it. Whereas other situations where I don't have that guarantee I'm going to get my thing to make it worthwhile, then it's just too frustrating.
Yeah, up there it's also just Druid of Purification as well, in that same sort of vein as well.
Yeah.
That's interesting because it's still kind of floor and ceiling type thing. Like the floor is that it's a, say Druid of Purification, the floor is it's a slightly more expensive Reclamation Sage, and the ceiling is a lot higher than that. So you can say, oh, the floor is high enough, and it almost operates kind of similar to another card that would depend on, the luck of what you've drawn.
Before we get too caught up in the bog of political cards, which I do think is very fun, I wanted to ask everybody if they do anything to sort of challenge or address their biases in deck building content, however you think you do that?
I know after I had I've had two arcs on my channel of talking about variance as a concept and why I'm averse to it. One in late 2023 and one like 3 months ago. And I definitely considered trying to look into more high variance decks. I built kind of my new Glissa deck that is trying to cram as many sub themes in as possible with minimal tutors. I think that's really interesting as a, I certainly try to kind of have it not fall dead, but it's definitely a deck where I've kind of challenged myself to, really have a deck that might depend more on draws and might, be wildly different depending on what I draw.
Yeah, I try to challenge myself. I think sometimes like, okay, I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing so a recent example would be, I don't have any bracket 1 decks. And I felt like, you know what, I need to do something in that space so I don't feel like I'm ignoring it and just oblivious to what's happening there. So I made it a point to try to brew a bracket 1 deck. I'm not going to do that like repeatedly. I have no interest in having 4 bracket 1 decks, but like the act of brewing one of them I thought was very useful, and I'm glad I went and did it. So that's probably the thing I do, is I will challenge myself when I'm aware of something I'm missing, a blind spot, a bias, whatever it winds up being. I come up with a way to challenge myself to at least make sure I am taking a peek into that space, or I'm at least challenging the bias a little bit, even if it's not something I'm going to be doing constantly.
For me, I feel like, so I do streamed deck reviews and I do deck review videos of my viewers' decks. And in part of doing this, I've looked at over 300 decks now on stream. And you can't help but be challenged by viewer decks because everyone has different restrictions. They're like, here's my budget, here's my pet cards I don't want you to cut, here's the sort of specific gameplay direction I'm going for. And it's like when someone serves me a deck that's like, hey, I need increased consistency, but I don't want tutors. I have to I would be like, I love tutors. I'm going to try, normally I'd just here's how you would here's the perfect tutor package on a budget that can help you find your thing. But if someone says no tutors, no tutors. So I have to here's how you can do a nice self mill package, or here's how you can, get alternative effects that do kind of what you want to do, or, getting that redundancy in different ways. So for me, where I don't really challenge my biases per se in my decks, because I just want my decks to be fun for me, playing or making a deck for someone else or helping someone overcome an issue with their deck inherently makes me have to walk around bias in terms of how do I, make the deck perfect for you, even if it wouldn't be perfect for me, right?
That's definitely something I like about doing deck reviews when I've done them, is that it really forces me outside my comfort zone. Sometimes people will have kind of specific asks, and I'll have to kind of follow. Sometimes I'll follow a theme, sometimes I'll follow a preference, but other times I will just be kind of looking at a deck list and trying to figure out, how does this person deck build and what would they want for this? Because obviously I know if I, stumbled across an old draft and wanted to turn it into a deck I would want to play now, I know exactly what I would do to it, even if past me might have had some different things in mind. But it's really interesting to kind of look at somebody else's list. This is maybe where my, review format has differed from yours, in that I don't do it live. I do it kind of on my own time. It's interesting to look at a deck and figure out what somebody else's intentions are for it. And that can lead to kind of some interesting problem solving.
Yeah, I do have another thing I want to touch on too when it comes to confronting bias. Is I was uploading weekly for a while, and I kind of got into this grindy flow state where I was I need to think of a new video every week. And I'm a dumb little 22-year-old, right? In the grand scheme of things, I'm pretty fucking young when it comes to content creators in this space. And I am very brash when it comes to my opinions and biases. And that's something that's sort of been mellowing out over time. I've been trying to find a nice bridge of what's more mellow language than Phyrexian Arena blows chunks, right? Well, for my decks, I don't like Phyrexian Arena because of this, instead of just this card blows, right? Or thinking of different use cases for cards and stuff. It's been a bit of a journey getting that feedback and comments and stuff, just being yo, you talk very strongly.
Well, I will, as someone significantly older than you, that's not necessarily an age thing. I've absolutely, over the years of content creation, had to learn to be way more cautious with the language I use and how to qualify the things I say versus just throwing a firebomb opinion out there and stating it like a fact. Because yes, I am 100% someone who's been guilty of that before and have to constantly work to not do it.
Commander, players and presenting opinions as facts. They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
We would never do such a thing.
Oh, of course not. No.
Oh, what? No.
I think I just find my biases by putting creatures in decks these days.
I'm glad you're evolving.
Honestly, that Grenzo list that I had a couple years ago was like the first time I was like, I'm gonna make a dedicated like deck that actually wins via like combat damage outside of like really slow control decks that attack like a 5/5 or whatever. But like an actual like mid-range creature deck. I don't know. It's been kind of fun. There's a few goofy lists. I made a McCready Lamplight Mayor deck that honestly is actually a really good aggro deck. It's just all life-having effects and like low power creatures that's to make them like unblockable. And it's funny. It's kind of silly. I don't know how long that deck's going to last because it's very one-dimensional, but I think everyone should build decks they don't like.
Yeah, no, I think those kind of exercises are very good to stretch muscles that you don't normally stretch too. Like it's space you don't usually play in, and maybe you're not like as up to date on the best cards to run with that kind of archetype or the best way to play that actual deck, and getting like forcing yourself out of that comfort zone and doing those things like just it makes you a better player, even if you're not playing that kind of deck long term or not playing a lot of those decks. I think it's still a good exercise to do, I think, for your brain and for yourself as a player and brewer.
100%.
If you told me 5 years ago more than half of my decks were going to be green, I would have called you crazy. I was like, that color's so boring, I would never build a green deck. Whereas now it's like, yeah, more than half of my decks are green. I've taken the green pill.
See, I used to be the green boy, and then I scrapped it all. It's too easy baby mode.
You were ever the green boy? Really?
Yeah. One of the first decks that I played in that original pod I was talking about was the mono green Omnath.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And it was like turbo ramp, slam the big things. And then, I added red, I changed the commander a few times, and then I landed on Mina and Den eventually. But like that was like my main deck. Mina and Den is one of my most foiled out decks that I own. I've spent it's the first card I bought at a Grand Prix ever. So I don't think I'm ever changing that commander, but like I've spent a lot of time working on that deck. It was my deck.
Lucky for you, I do not think Mina and Den are ever going to be bad in the command zone. I mean, never say never. I guess maybe in like 50 years, we'll have like a 1-mana Mina and Den. But
yeah, it's 4-mana exploration, which is really good.
Yeah, Oracle Moldiah is still like a
good.
perfectly fine card.
I don't know if we get like 12 more Urza Silexes, then maybe it gets a bit worse.
The dream.
Speaking of new Urza Silexes, did we want to talk a little bit about Edge of Eternities before getting into questions?
Yeah, right. Unless you guys had anything more to say about biases.
I don't have anything specifically, no.
Not really.
Okay. I want to talk about the card Evendo Walking Haven. This is a land planet, which I assume means it's a land that has station. So this enters tapped, it taps for a green. It has station 12+. So as you tap creatures to power it up, it gets charge counters equal to the creature's power that you tap. When it has 12 or more charge counters, it has a new ability, pay a green, tap, add a green for each creature you control.
Does this card even do anything?
It's like...
That was a joke with the name.
It's like Budget Gaia's Cradle, right?
Oh, this is worse than Budget Gaia's Cradle. I think. I want to lock this in a little bit. I don't think this card will perform that well. I think there's some decks that can use it, especially like a Galta style deck where you go like Galta for like 0 mana or like, the 2 green he costs. And then you immediately station Evendo and then you green tap, add a green for each creature you control. By the way, I hate that these lands, this one and the Tolarian Academy one, the blue one, that's the blue one in the cycle, have the green activation and then the tap, so they're just 1 mana and worse for no reason. Like, now the card's balanced. I think most decks will be served better by a Growing Rites of Itlimoc than an Evendo. But though they do different things. This is just a tap land at the floor, whereas Growing Rites is a sort of a filtering spell. So maybe they have different homes. You can crop rotation for this one, right? But you can also crop rotation for guys.
Yeah.
But, if we're not playing with game changers, then,
I don't know if you've ever met EDH players, but they hate attacking. So I think these are going to do better than people think. These are going to be popular because instead of like making enemies, offending people by swinging them with your 2/2, you can tap it and do something with it and put it into your planet. Hell yeah.
I think it's just a little awkward because it asks you to go tall and wide.
I don't think it asks you to go tall.
No, either or. Because if you just go wide, you can just have all of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes you feel so vulnerable.
12/1/1s works.
Yeah, you can throw as many creatures into it as you want to. These will be popular. I'm not sure it'll be good. It'll be good in some decks. It'll be fine, and if not very good. But like, yes, I would rather run Growing Rights more often than not than this. It'll be a good land, but I think people will overestimate how good it is compared to how it performs, and the price will reflect that too.
Yeah, I think people see, oh, Gaia's Cradle. It's. Let's take a deep breath. It's not quite there. Of course, it's not quite there, but I don't even think it's quite near to Growing Rights. I think yeah.
Yeah, agree.
I think you're sleeping on this.
I think it will be fine, to be clear. I think this card will be fine. It will do well. It's just, I think Growing Rights is probably the better card.
I think you just play it, crew it, untap, win, no? Isn't that like way faster than Growing Rights?
Well, it's sorcery speed to crew, by the way. So.
Oh, is it? All right, this is way worse.
Okay, there we go. Yes, if you can seedborn.
Wait, the red one is mega bad.
Oh, red gets shafted every land cycle. It's amazing.
I don't know why it requires you to sacrifice a land. That's what I was about to say.
This is unplayable.
It's no Shiv and Gorge, but like it's still pretty bad.
I was hoping it was Shivan Gorge just because that would have been hilarious after getting Cradle and.
Hey, Shivan Gorge enters. Does Shivan Gorge enter untapped? Yeah, Shivan Gorge.
No, it's untapped. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a colorless source though.
Shivan Gorge is fine.
Shiv and Gorge.
Shivan Gorge is strictly better than a mountain, basically. Oh no, it doesn't have a red. Never mind.
Hey, it's a legendary land. It triggers your legendary synergies.
Yeah, part of the
Come
same
on.
cycle is fucking Tolarian Academy. Like, no, red got shafted. Let's not pretend.
Oh yeah, sure. If you're comparing to the strongest Magic card ever printed, sure.
Even Phyrexian Arena was part of the same cycle. Or not Phyrexian Arena, Phyrexian Tower. Sorry.
Phyrexian Tower.
Sorry, I'm like in a straitjacket rocking back and forth in a padded cell talking about Phyrexian Arena all day.
This card is so much worse than the rest for no reason and requires sacrificing a land to activate the ability, which confused me.
Oh, the red one, yeah.
Well, sometimes that's upside. Sacking a land is sometimes upside, but yes, in general, I do. No, I'm not going to pretend that red is the worst one in the cycle.
No. I just reviewed the
My Dakmor salvage.
Edge of Eternity's pre-con, the land sacrificing one. And land sacrificing is okay there, but a card having land sacrificing on it is not necessarily upside.
It's like Hammer of Perforos. That card's so powerful.
That the second ability is the powerful part of that card. Yeah. God. Oh,
I want to talk about a big, stupid, splashy card.
All right.
The Dominion Bracelet.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So Elk's going to talk about the control target opponent card. This is a 2-mana legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, so it's a short sword. It has equip 1. And it has 15 mana, exile the Dominion Bracelet. You control target opponent during their next turn. This ability costs X less to activate, where X is this creature's power. Activate only as a sorcery. I'm eyeing this for mono green lands as like a second Emrakul style effect, because you can just equip this to either Emrakul or Merit Lage out of Dark Depths and just activate it basically for free off of that. It's 3 mana for a control effect if you have Merit Lage out.
That's funny.
Yeah, I honestly do think it's like halfway decent. I originally was like, oh, this card's unplayable, but then I realized and thought a little bit more. I'm like, I often have Merit Lage in play, and controlling someone as a mono green player is a very good way to interact with them. It's also just hilarious.
Man, I might put this in Taunos as like a mind slaver that I can't loop.
Are you looking for that?
Yeah, because I felt like I had to cut mind slaver for the bracket 2 version.
Oh, you were trying to power it down. Yeah, that's tricky for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a cool card, and I think there's a slice of decks where it's really good. Again, I think it's one of those cards where people are going to see it and not realize their deck really isn't one of the ones that makes it really easy to use efficiently.
Oh, mine's going to reduce the cost of it by 1. I'm paying 14 for this.
It is 100%. If you are paying like 14, 15, it's like a little bit difficult to say this card's good, because you also have to pay 3 on top of that. Like 3 is the minimum in terms of like.
Yeah, I'm paying 2 more to copy it with Taunos.
Yeah, you have to pay 2 and then equip it for 1 before you can like, shoot someone with the mind control ray. God, this card's just so cool though. It's so funny.
It is cool.
And it's kind of fair actually, because there's so many inflection points for you to respond to it.
Oh yeah.
Like I feel like it's one of those things too, if you get housed by this, like, well, you kind of had that coming too.
What about you, Dana?
Dana, is there a card you want to talk about? Yeah.
Man, I've only started digging into these. The one I maybe want to talk about, it's been out for a long time, is the Tezzeret card.
Oh yeah.
And my first time reading it when it was spoiled, which was, I don't know, almost a month ago now, I think. I was like, oh, that's decent, but like nothing backbreaking necessarily. But like the more I've looked at it, because I've gotten to the point where there's enough spoilers out that I was looking at my decks and what cards I want. There's so many decks where this is really good, like just accidentally really, really good. And I wasn't really thinking in terms of that when I first saw it, because it's whenever an artifact enters a battlefield. So like, oh, every and it's colorless. So like, oh, there's so many equipment deck that will just accidentally have this be fantastic, and so many treasure decks and clue decks and like artifact creature decks. And like it just is unintentionally really good in, I don't know, half the decks out there based on like the archetypes I just named.
Yeah, they easily could have put whenever a non-token artifact you control enters, but they did not.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
When Tezzeret was first spoiled, I was cracking up because everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, you can go get Soul Ring with this," and I'm like, "Guys, you would not put Sisei's ring in your commander deck. It's an upside that it grabs just Soul Ring, right? But it shouldn't be the feature of the card in your deck."
People will finally learn that Trinket Mage is a useful card.
I actually don't really like Trinket Mage most of the time if it's just for Soul Ring.
That's crazy. Oh no, if it's just for Soul Ring, yeah, it sucks.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I like it in general, of course. If you're like running a Lantern deck or something, yeah, absolutely.
Well, in to a degree, that's one of the things I don't like about this. I don't love cards that are just generically useful in so many places. And like making it colorless, I think, is a problem just because then there's just so many decks that want it. And I don't love that effect. That's why I'm not a huge fan of, what's the card from Strixhaven, the colorless that copies a spell of.
Oh,
a Wandering Archaic, right?
A Wandering Archaic, yes.
Archaic, yep. Archaics, they're like, it's good in literally every deck. You're almost always wrong to not run it. I mean, not 100%, but like, it's probably better than something that you have in your deck for the most part. Like if you're just looking at raw power, and I don't like that. I'm not a big fan of like when design makes cards that work that way, where it's almost always better than something you're running.
Yeah,
this card's crazy. It saw CDH play actually for a little bit. It's not quite good enough now, but I remember people playing it in real tournaments. It's really strong.
Yeah, I would be a lot more terrified of Tezzeret if the ultimate was actually like super backbreaking.
Yeah.
Like luckily this is definitely not a one ring situation where it's like the one ring is just every commander deck needs it. And I know like, oh, my brew actually doesn't need the one ring. You see, Elk, it's actually Listen, the one ring belongs in just about every commander deck. It's like a really egregious design.
Yeah, Tezzeret, at least you have to be...
There'll be situations with Tezzeret where it has like 22 counters on it and you can't do anything with it.
You can get multiple emblems, but like...
That's true, yeah.
But like, oh no, I'm getting attacked by 2/3/3 foods or 1/6/6 food. Like, you know,
right.
It's like, yeah.
Joke's on you. That's what I'm building with this. I'm gonna build some goofy deck that's gonna put 40 counters on Tezzeret, and then I will make multiple emblems until you lose.
That's funny though. I kind of like that. I do want to shout out one card before we move on here. Lightless Evangel has awesome art.
Hey! I got a bad card to talk about.
Oh, let's hear it.
It's not bad.
Oh, yeah, let's not. Don't skip. Don't
skip me. Come on.
Oh, I thought Snails was the red card. My bad. The red land.
Oh no, I was just saying. I just want to chime in that card sucked. Oh yeah, that card. That card is fine.
The art's awesome though.
Lightless Evangel, yeah, it's cool art. There's a lot of cool art in this set.
Yeah.
Also, Shocklands are getting reprinted. Everybody go buy them when the prices of Shocklands tank.
Well, they're going to standard, so they might go up actually.
Temporarily.
See, they'll go up, they'll go down, and then they'll go up even higher than they were when they were in standard. That's how it always goes. Okay, card I would like to talk about is an uncommon artifact called All Fates Scroll. This is a mana rock, 3 mana mana rock. Taps to add a mana of any color, 7 taps, sacrifice this to draw X cards, where X is the number of differently named lands you control. And I find this card interesting because I am weirdly fascinated to see kind of the gradually increasing power with which Wizards of the Coast is willing to put on a 3 mana artifact. It feels like they're kind of testing to see, at what point people will start actually wanting to play these.
I want to play this in Taurnos,
which I find interesting. Like, what was it? The third Ravnica block had the ones where you can pay 4 and sacrifice them to draw 2 cards rather than the previous ones that you could sacrifice to draw 1.
Card advantage.
This one just seems like actually pretty good in like a more controlling deck. Like you could draw a lot of cards on somebody's end step with this.
Yeah, I'm going to play this in Taurnos. I'm going to copy the ability for 9 mana. That's actually my plan.
No, that sounds good. That sounds genuinely good.
This is going to have a great home in my Cura deck, which it's a mono green deck. I only have 7 basics in that deck, and those are split across snow covered and normal forest because Field of the Dead. So my lands are already all differently named every single game. And so this is just like 7 mana draw 14 or whatever in that deck, which is really funny. And the fact that it's a permanent that sacrifices itself, you can like shifting woodland it and then draw like a ton more. It's really stupid. This card
and it's one of those things too. If you only utilize that ability once every dozen games, you kind of don't notice or don't care. It's been an effective mana rock that comes into play untapped. So, okay, it's slightly worse than, Arcane Signet or something. But like you really, for the most part, won't notice that. And you will absolutely notice it that one game when you drew, a dozen cards.
Yeah.
Well, I think the floor on this is pretty high too, right? Like 5 or 6 cards for most 2-color decks by the time you're wanting to spend 7 mana to draw a bunch of cards. It's pretty wild.
It's one of those things that you'll top deck in the late game post farewell or something and go, oh my god, yes, this is exactly what I needed, and just refill your hand and win the game because of it. All right, moving on to the Beseech the Mirror section. This is where you beseech us for answers. I think in the last couple episodes I said beseech us for questions, but that's not correct. You beseech us for answers. All you have to do is put mirror in your comment, and then we'll find it and talk about it on the podcast. So this is one that I felt tied in with the theme of this podcast already pretty well. Penasabe asks, Mirror, I sacrificed 3 0/1 plants to ask, how does content creation affect your deck building? Do you feel pressured to innovate and or avoid being boring, choosing popular commanders, archetypes, etc.? How does being a content creator bias your deck building, if it does at all?
I mean, I know I tend to make a lot of videos about my decks, and as a result, I feel a very strong incentive to make interesting decks. I will still throw together some boring things sometimes. Like I think for shits and giggles a while back, I put together a $25 Winota deck just to see how good it'd function. It was really good. Winota's broken. That was just like a funny little thing that I would never talk about on my channel. But for any like actual deck, I really want it. I don't feel like putting money into a deck if it's not going to be interesting enough that I might be able to make a video about it at some point.
I still make videos about decks sometimes, even if I find them boring. I mean, I haven't done it for Iara. I think Iara is like my most boring deck by far. It's literally just mono black drain because it's like a little comfort archetype. And I also love playing that deck when I'm drunk and I'm just like, I cannot play anything else. I just like slamming Kokusho on the board with my friends while we're just having a beer or two. But like, even like things like for the decks that I have made videos about, Kinesos and Judith, I still consider them relatively boring. I mean, Judith is pretty stock aristocrats and Kinesos is like rampy sea monster shenanigans, right? It's a tempo deck kind of. It's all counter spells and sea monsters. Like it kind of built itself in a way. So I still make videos about these decks, and I don't know. I think content creation for me is like, it doesn't affect how I deck build because I'm always like a little hipster. And even when I'm not a little hipster, if I like a deck enough, I'll just talk about it on the internet. That's how I started my channel, was just like my first like 5-6 videos are just me talking about my decks. And then I started moving on once I ran out of decks to talk about. I mean, it doesn't really affect my deck building. I think the only thing that's changed over time is I get killer suggestions from the comments sometimes. Like the Aether Revolt example for Judith. I would have never put that card in that deck if someone didn't recommend it.
For me, it definitely, I think it impacts it a little bit, but like when I think back to the decks I was brewing before I started making content, I've always wanted to brew things outside the box. So I was already doing that. And so as a content creator, once I've established myself as someone who does that, well, then there's maybe pressure to keep doing that. But like, I think I would guess, even if I wasn't making content, the same evolution would have happened. I would have continued to like try to brew things with obscure commanders and, coming up with my own particular take on what I'm doing with that deck. So I think I would have probably gone on the same path anyway, despite the fact that as a content creator, it's maybe kind of been directed in that direction. And I would also wager that for the most part, most content creators are tending to brew that way. Not everybody, but like part of the reason I think most people that do this achieve some level of success is because they are doing things outside the box. No disrespect to, the Ur-Dragon or something, but like there's not a lot to talk about with an Ur-Dragon deck necessarily. And there is a lot to talk about when you've, grabbed Lady of the Mountain from Legends or something, like to build your commander around, right? Like I think just the way content creation works, it just kind of encourages people to brew that way. So I think it all kind of, you just kind of do the thing that you want to do, and that's why you're a content creator versus you're being pushed in that direction because you're a content creator.
I want to second everything you said. My decks are all cool and awesome anyway, and I build funny decks regardless. So It hasn't changed the way I build decks either.
So I almost want to change my answer now because I'm thinking back to the decks I built before I started making videos, and they weren't any less interesting. So I don't know.
I would say the one exception to this is probably I do things a little bit differently because I play on stream sometimes. So like I've made it a point, like I run less board wipes than I probably should in terms of like what plays the best, because I don't want a game to go 90 minutes on stream or something and continuously be board wiping or in situations where it's awful to view. So there's definitely some choices I make sometimes because I don't want things to play badly on stream. But like really beyond that, that's really it.
That's an interesting divide because us three don't really do actual play content at all, whereas you are.
I play against my patrons.
Yeah, but that's,
join the Patreon.
Yeah, but that's like on stream and stuff. It's not like like a gameplay video per se.
Oh, yeah, not for content. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Hey, watch out. I might start doing that this summer. I got a second channel now.
That's true.
Yeah, who knows? Ooh.
Ooh, maybe there's something coming up. Oh, who knows?
Oh, some sort of spoiler of some sorts.
Oh, I would never. There would never be some sort of spoiler for a future thing that would involve gameplay.
This question comes from Spotify. Hey, Spotify viewers, leave comments. We do check them. Good Facts 1928. Excellent year. I don't know what happened in 1928. I'm going to clarify. I don't know if that was a good year. Mirror, I counter one of my Weatherstorm copies with Arcane Denial to ask, what deck strategies or commanders would you recommend as an alternative to Chaos decks? I enjoy Chaos decks because they make the stack complicated, and I like to sort out how everything is going to resolve. But Chaos isn't exactly popular or fun deck to play against. What would you recommend as an alternative?
So I think there are some number of cards that are kind of Chaos adjacent, but you can build around them to give yourself advantage. I also think there are cards where you can do that and it also won't necessarily feel horrible. So the Great Aurora is an example of a card that I would maybe explore. I think there are interesting things you can do with it, but like a single Great Aurora resolving won't necessarily totally screw up a game. Maybe it will. I don't know. But that's definitely one I find more interesting than something like a, Warp World.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that's like a strict replacement necessarily in terms of like the Chaos play style. And I would guess anything you do that's watered down Chaos isn't going to be as fun for you as well. My suggestion would be to like just pre-warn folks that you want to play your Chaos deck and play it once and then play something else. Like folks tend to be much more accepting of those kinds of things if they can do a one and done and not have to deal with the rest of the night than they are if you just want to play. I would much rather play a Chaos deck and then play 3 regular games than I would a slightly less Chaos deck for 4 games.
Yeah, for me, I feel like the main thing I don't like about Chaos decks is if they get too prisony. And I love a prison deck, but if it kills me, like something like locking someone under a Possibility Storm is a little bit of a snooze fest if you have no way to murder people through it, right? For me, I would look towards maybe if you want to run these Possibility Storm silly decks, you're casting from exile with Possibility Storm. You can run all sorts of effects. Like there's the one demon from 40k that I forgot the name of, and then there's Intrepid Archaeologist, I believe is the name of the background, or Impassionate Archaeologist or whatever. Passionate Archaeologist. Impassionate implies that they don't care. Where every time you cast from exile, you also throw damage equal to that spell's mana value at someone. Like that kills people through the Possibility Storm. That's an interesting, line to take. So for me, I would maybe stop looking at cards if it's annoying your playgroup that are just Chaos for Chaos's sake, and look at them more as stacks pieces that slow the game down enough to get you to a overarching game plan that you actually want to do, whether it be from cast from exiles, or I always like Zerzoth as a Chaos commander, where it's just a little spice of Chaos, like a little sprinkling of it on top of the murder that Zerzoth does, being an army in a can that pings and whatnot.
Yeah, well, I think within that, I think is the main lesson about Chaos cards, I guess. It's just that you need to have some sort of motive other than haha, zany, random, permanence, go woo, You don't just want to, mess everything around, because I think that's what feels frustrating to some people about Chaos. Certainly to me, is when it feels like somebody is kind of throwing all of the cards in the air to be reshuffled just because they feel like it, not for any real reason, just because haha, kind of random, kind of funny. So if you're doing it with an actual reason in mind, or if you have kind of a more intentional construction for that, I think it can work a lot better.
Yeah, I think that's the big problem with the Chaos is a lot of times there's no point to it, which I guess is the purpose of Chaos maybe. But like one of the few times that I've ever like just kind of scooped because I was done with the game was because somebody played Scrambleverse and I just copied it. And I was like, I literally just don't have time to wait around for this to resolve. I'm just going to leave, and it's like that is to waste people's time.
A win condition, some say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, at the end of the day, people tend to not like feeling like their time was wasted, and that is almost always what the deal breaker is for folks when they get annoyed at a situation in a game. It's because they feel their time was wasted.
Like, I don't mind conceding to a hard lock because I feel like you did something, but yeah, conceding to I don't have the time to resolve this spell is very different. I would recommend to you, Good Facts, two things. If what you like about Chaos Decks is that the stack becomes complicated and wacky, give CDH a try. It is a version of Commander where the stack gets crazy. 10, 15 spells or abilities are on the stack at once, and any number of them resolving could end the game. It is wild and wacky, and it's a genuinely unique way to play Commander. And if you like crazy stacks of spells and abilities, that's one of the craziest ways you can do it. And it happens almost every CDH game, which is pretty cool. It's a unique, fun experience. My other suggestion is Storm. Storm has a little chaosy feel if it's traditional manual Storm, and has a lot of randomness to it. Maybe give that a try. Our next question comes from Justin Pennell 8198. Mirror, mirror, I tap creatures with total power 20 or greater to add 20 charge counters, already using the station mechanic, I see, to ask, if you're building in bracket 2, how many tutors can you play for a secret commander? Salvaging Station Jank is certainly an appropriate power level for bracket 2, but there's really only Auriok Salvagers as a similar effect. Does the few tutors restriction make secret commanders unbuildable in bracket 2?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that get really frustrated about tutors, and listen, if you don't want to play with tutors in your playgroup, that's fine. But overall, I do think that tutors are a very healthy part of the EDH ecosystem, and some people are going to want to behead me for that. But I think it comes down to what you're tutoring for. And in this case, a secret commander being Salvaging Station, there's next to nothing, I'm pretty sure, that does something like Salvaging Station besides maybe a Scrap Mastery, sort of weird Narset's reversal it back to your hand so it doesn't exile itself, weirdness. So yes, this is an instance we're running some artifact tutors to make sure that you get that Salvaging Station finisher that you want to play with is something that is worthwhile. I like running tutors mostly because it enables me to end the game the way that I want to, and in a timely fashion as well. Both are things that I quite value in a commander deck, on top of course, the high floor talk that we had earlier. So I'm a big fan of tutors in bracket 2. I just think it's what you're using them for, so long as you're not I'm going to get Blood Artists, Phyrexian Arena, or not Phyrexian Arena, oh my gosh, I keep doing it, Phyrexian Altar. And, doing an infinite combo on turn 4 or whatever, you're pretty cool in my book. I'm down to see tutors across the board. It also makes Aven Mind Sensor all the better, and I love that card, so run tutors.
So I will chime in here. I don't run tutors really at all anywhere. And my reasoning, and this is going to sound awful, is because I don't need to. That sounds ridiculously arrogant, but I feel like I've played this game long enough. I'm gonna win plenty of games without tutors. I don't need them to get my win condition.
Fully based.
But
he's just goated.
Separate from that, intent is what matters. If you're running 6 tutors in your bracket 2 deck because you're trying to find the secret commander that's doing some janky things, that feels okay to me. Versus someone who's kind of angle shooting and well, I'm running, a bunch of bad tutors in this bracket too, but you're going to get your some kind of combo or a win condition every single time, and you're acting oh, it's just a chill bracket 2 deck, but it's not. That is a difference for me, and you can usually tell pretty quickly why they're in there and what the person is doing with them. And that's the only time I think things become problematic, is when someone is trying to act like they are doing something different than what they're actually doing.
I would tend to agree. Although I also think, I don't know if there's actually an official restriction for bracket 2, but I kind of enjoy the challenge of building without more than, I think 3 tutors is the amount that the deck building website's set up. I don't know if that's an official number anywhere, but I enjoy that challenge just because bracket 2 is at a power level where you can pretty easily find enough filtering to be fairly consistent without using tutors. You might need to optimize a bit more, but at the power level of bracket 2, that's just not that hard. So ultimately, I would encourage anybody to try that 3 number, give it a shot, and I found that for me, when I built my bracket 2 deck, building with only 3, I might even be cutting down to 2 soon. That was kind of fun. It requires you to focus a little bit more on finding kind of filtering and other ways to make your deck high velocity enough to see the adequate number of cards you need to find your secret commander in this case. But still, I think it's kind of a fun challenge.
I think it sort of depends on what you are tutoring for. So for the most part in bracket 2, especially if you're not like a combo deck, tutors are kind of unnecessary. You're not usually there isn't usually a specific effect you need. If you are building a hidden commander deck, you do need tutors though, right? Because you have to find your commander like in the mid game. It can't even be like just your finisher. If you're like I'm tutoring for the same finisher every time, you can just have 2 finishers in your deck instead of the tutor, and then it'll work just as well or whatever. But if it's a hidden commander you're gonna need tutors for that. And as someone who has played Salvaging Station as my hidden commander in casual EDH for a long time at various power levels, including currently bracket 2, I have never had any issues with anybody going like, oh, you have too many tutors, because I'm getting like Salvaging Station and like Bosch Iron Golem, and nobody is concerned about either of those cards. So, it's all within context how much tutors you should or shouldn't play. It is unlikely that your deck will be too powerful if the thing you're tutoring for is sufficiently jank.
Yeah, I think mostly it has to do with table balance for sure. Just like make sure everyone's on the same page. Like this is like the crux of brackets and whatnot. Just like making sure that everyone knows like, hey, listen, I have a bunch of tutors, but it's for this. And, if that leads to people beating up on you, then yeah, of course, you just got to take that on the chin. Like it happens. Tutors do make your deck more powerful, even if it isn't like necessarily increasing the ceiling, it's increasing the floor, right? So, I mean, yeah, I think so long as you disclose everything and everyone's on the same power level and page, then there shouldn't be a problem with so many tutors.
I haven't disclosed anything and I've never had issues because I'm getting jank cards. Nobody's like I'm telling you, nobody's going to be mad if you're like, I tutor for Bosch the Iron Golem. Like no one's going to be like, hold up, you didn't say there was a fabricate in your deck. Yeah, so I have one last question I want to ask you.
Sure.
Is the next guest of this podcast Mark Rosewater?
Absolutely.